Their World Cup is over, but our coverage continues on One Soccer. Hello and welcome to Bet365 for the win, a beautiful home for the beautiful game. I am James Sharman, joined by Gareth Wheeler and Amy Walsh. Today, Spain-Portugal round 16, and it's farewell Cristiano. Oh, a sad one there, perhaps. Meanwhile, USA-Belgium round 16. Who holds the trump card? I'm not smiling, you're smiling. No, you're smiling, I'm smiling. We'll deep dive into Jonathan David's perceived struggles at the World Cup. And what about England, Mexico from last night? Have you recovered? I certainly haven't recovered. To begin though, my friends, where do we begin today? Well, it's the one that's just moments ago come to a close. Final score, USA 1, Belgium 4. 4-1. Okay, where do we start to unpack this one? Wheels, the USA had played some really good football up until this point. They then ran into a Belgian team that remembered finally they were Belgium and were just outplayed from the opening whistle.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The U.S. performance tonight mimicked the dumpster fire of banter that's been making the rounds over the last 24 hours about what happened in the build-up to this match. It also mimics the dumpster fire approach of FIFA to rescinding the Florian Balogun or suspending his sentence, his suspension, I guess. And it also mimics the dumpster fire approach by President Donald Trump intervening into something that really he has no right, no standing to put himself in the middle of this competition at this time. So I think it's fitting in a lot of ways. Some people will say it's poetic justice. Some people will say that it couldn't happen to a better team, considering the context of it. The rest of the world was cheering against the United States tonight. This is because as football fans, as football people across the globe, the game isn't owned by one individual. It isn't owned by one country. It isn't owned by Gianni Infantino. It isn't owned by Donald Trump. It's a sport for the people. It's a sport for everyone. And when you're making exceptions to the rule for one country, a host nation, and the most powerful country in the world over everyone else, it just doesn't sit right. We all know right from wrong. And now we live in a time where people will accept corruption blindly without batting an eye if it benefits them or their side of the equation. That's just not right, whether it's on the field or in real life. And I just look at things. Perhaps the team on the field was affected by it. Certainly the Balogun move didn't pay off. Like, he was being made out to be the next coming of Lionel Messi. Like, it's Balogun. I don't know what I was missing here. I just would love to know inside the walls of FIFA right now. My question to Gianni Infantino will be, was it worth it? Johnny, was it worth it bringing the credibility of your biggest tournament, your biggest prize, into question for this, for Trump, for this group on this night? It's absolutely shameful that it's played out, as was the performance on the field by the U.S.
Well, I was getting a bit concerned because Trump had been very quiet regarding the World Cup the last couple of weeks. I was waiting for something, just something, and then it happened. And then he spoke today about the something.
But all I did, I asked for a review because I didn't think it was a foul. And, again, I'm good at this stuff. I didn't think it was a foul. I thought it was two great athletes that crashed into each other and got entangled. That was not a guy punching somebody in the face or anything that, would be different.
He also mentioned, Dubs, that he didn't know what a red card was, but he knows that. Do you have any sympathy for the players here?
Do I have any what, sorry?
Sympathy for the players here.
Oh, yeah, I do. But first of all, I kept saying foul, and this whole thing is run afoul, right? The whole thing's tarnished. And even if the U.S. had found a way to win, which they didn't, they were thoroughly outplayed and outclassed by Belgium, who suddenly found their feet against a once high-flying U.S. team. But I think I do feel for the players, and that leaves me conflicted because I am always rooting against the U.S. People that I speak to, whether they're former players or pundits, are like, there is good reason to want CONCACAF teams, our co-hosts in Mexico and the US, to do well. I don't ever subscribe to that. I want to see them fail. I want to see them fail miserably. So today, to see them go down 4-1 and almost get beaten at their own game, where they were flying in on the press and then Courtois was breaking it with a simple pass over 2 lines and then a switch of play and then great dynamic wing play like we're used to seeing with the US, and a ball put into the box, and then Tim Ream getting absolutely bodied for their second goal. Like, to me, that was poetic, to steal something from Wheels there. So I think, had this gone further, their pathway to the quarterfinals, perhaps to the semis, because as a co-host, you do have an easier time of it. You get weaker opponents. We have talked about this with Canada and evaluating their performance. They beat teams that they were meant to beat. You could say the same thing about the US. So there always would have been an asterisk. There always would have been a question about the path. But to your point about the players, I do feel for them, because Trump took the narrative, he made it his own, and now it's corrupt. Questions were asked, and you can't go back from now, because you'll always have that precedent that they set where they let politics get in the way of something that's meant to be completely neutral in the FIFA disciplinary committee, which it might remain so. But I mean, the corruption and, Infantino in bed with Trump, it is a really bad look for football.
Should it cost him his job? Like, I think we'll get into it.
There is the bracket as it stands right now. It's getting interesting. No hosts beyond the round of 16, which isn't always a great thing, obviously, but it's happened this time around. Do you think the Wheels? I mean, listen, the noise around this game will be around Trump, Infantino, the US team. Yeah, Belgium were outstanding today. That's the Belgium that we've seen play in previous tournaments. They've underwhelmed in big games. It was a big game today, and they rose to the occasion.
Well, let's talk the game, then we'll get back to some of the fallout when it comes to FIFA. But you're right. Rudy Garcia deserves all the credit in the world. One team that wasn't distracted by what was ahead of them was Belgium. They were absolutely focused. Rudy Garcia made a big call, keeping players like Kevin De Bruyne, Jeremy Doku, Romelu Lukaku back-to-back games out of the starting 11 and getting the most out of that group. It was outstanding. They had requisite legs in the midfield. They had to deal with an early injury to Onana, and still, they didn't skip a beat. I think he deserves a lot of credit, and they're kind of finding their legs. And what you're kind of realizing with some of these games at this World Cup, it's not necessarily how you start, especially these knockout games, it's how you finish. And that team that finished the game tonight was really strong for Belgium as well. So this was more what was expected, but the US were amateur hour. Like, the mistakes that they were making, like players running into each other. Chris Richards has done a lot of work covering for the 38-year-old legs of Tim Ream over the course of this tournament, but both were really, really poor. It struck midnight for Alex Freeman at right back. Christian Pulisic couldn't run. The midfield couldn't keep the ball. Like, just about everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And Mauricio Pochettino, he's moonlighting as like some sort of like obscure artist. Yeah, like he's like in his obscure artist days with the flow. He's just like wearing the comfy clothes. Like, he's been hanging out here in the US making a lot of money.
Obscure artist.
Yeah, that's what he looks.
That'd be Pulisic, wouldn't it?
Moonlighting as some like avant-garde, like Jackson Pollock. I just he was lost. Like, you saw him boiling over there. Like, literally, there was nothing he could do. The team absolutely laid an egg. I do question how good they actually were. I know that first game against Paraguay, they just ran all over them. It was impressive. But we all know Paraguay's footballing acumen. It's kick and push and punch, and that's kind of it. They beat Bosnia and Herzegovina, not a great team, and handled them even when they were down to 10 men, and they beat Australia as well. I mean, it wasn't necessarily murderer's row that they dealt with here. The U.S., I didn't think that they were this bad, but I didn't think they were as good as people were kind of hyping them up to be as well.
Yeah, which is why I think the players, to Sharm's earlier point, were affected by the narrative going in. You could say they're professionals. They have to be able to compartmentalize what's in front of them and just address the task at hand. But you could tell, like, the first 15 minutes was a masterclass by Belgium. They were buzzing to start out with. The US were passive. They were so poor at defending their box. You know, you saw, was it Raskin, when he pounced, there was like 4 or 5 U.S. players ball watching, just squared across for the first of de Ketelar's brace on the day. And then the response for the U.S. was immediate with the free kick that got a little bit of help from the deflection, and it goes by Courtois, but then instantaneous response again from Belgium, so that the game was managed so well. You saw, I'm not going to call him Mopo wheels, I'm not going to do it. You saw Pochettino adjust, and he took Dest out. Reina was in, so you thought, okay, here we go. They're on the front foot to start the second half. But it just wasn't to be. It was a little bit too, it was too little, too late, really, for the U.S. And when you're talking about, I didn't think they were this bad, I don't think that they are. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle between high-flying U.S. versus Paraguay, the way that they started, and the way they performed today, which was very, very poor. So they're going to have to look at themselves in a mirror. And I think that the U.S. Soccer Federation and the way that they intervened, and then, you know, Trump was brought into this, whether that was of their own volition or not, but there's a lot of questions that have to be asked right now about performance, but especially what went on outside the pitch.
Yeah, well, let's go back there, Shay, because it's fun. Gianni Infantino, he's his own biggest fan. We know that. There's talk out there already that this might cost him his job, mixing politics with sport, which he has publicly said for years he is vehemently against. You can't do that or we'll suspend you. He says that himself. He's now done it, whether he likes it or not. Is there any chance, do you think, he can lose his job? And I mean, he's a powerful man with allies everywhere because, well, we can explain and describe perhaps why he's got allies everywhere. But to me, it seems like a bit of a stretch. This will cost him his job. But do you think it could?
I think it should. Whether it will, that depends on the backbone of the footballing world and other member nations within FIFA. They broke their own charter. They just banned Nepal like 2 weeks ago because of governmental interference. When the Canadian women's national team was on Parliament Hill, it was no secret that FIFA were keeping an eye on proceedings because they don't allow, as part of their governance, for outside governments or third parties to be involved in the business of FIFA or its member associations. It's written in their bylaws, and they've just gone on and broken their own bylaws. And when you have Sepp Blatter calling you out publicly on social media, I mean, what a look that is, because he knows that there can be corruption in terms of making people money. That's how you keep people happy. That's how you get power and keep it. Just ask the president of the United States right now. But when the integrity of the game is now put into question, that sits on his desk. Like, the buck stops with him. I'm sorry. He is the one responsible. The whole charade that the World Cup draw was, this ode to Donald Trump with a peace prize and the village people, and is this World Cup about the biggest, most popular tournament on the planet, or was it placating an American president? He's blurred the lines far too often. He shouldn't be able to get away with this. And this is going to be a big test, how much pushback the rest of the footballing world is able to put on Gianni Infantino right now. For me, this is unforgivable. And look, I know there's documentaries about the corruption in FIFA. There's been plenty of written and said about it. I'm not one of those people out with my pitchfork protesting FIFA all the time. Generally, I think that there's a lot of good people working in that organization. They're trying to take the game forward. But this is their leader. This is their figurehead. This is who represents the game of football globally. And he's allowed this to happen. It's just unforgivable for me. And I just hope that there's some kind of pushback here and people have the guts to do so.
Well, we've already seen some of the pushback, right? You saw it from Belgium with the statement that they put out. You saw UEFA put out a statement to say that, you know, football needs to be, and the way it's governed needs to be fair, honest, and transparent. And the quote was, those rules are not open to interpretation. So that's what I love about our game is there are going to be human errors. There are going to be errors even with technology and how that's interpreted, and even going back to Flo Balogun and how he was awarded that red card. It's a slow-mo look. It's a looking at a still, and they're like, well, that's not exactly how VAR works. So we still have to work out what is imperfect in the way that our game is played, but you've forever tarnished it now with the way that this was approached and dealt with. And then you saw even the way that, like, the trickle down effect instantly, and whether this was a form of protest or not, only time will tell, with France saying, well, we want Elise's yellow card challenged or suspended as well. And then even the Kwanzaa red card, which was as red card as a red card can be, right? I mean, that was like extra dark red, blood red. That was as red card, like a sending off, as classic as it could ever be. You have England or Tuchel talking about whether the fact they should put in for, potentially having that suspended. So it makes all kinds of gray area in something that should forever be black and white.
They could appeal that handball by Maradona in '86. In that case, let's go back retroactively. Why not? It's a great idea. Listen, we could talk about this for a lot longer, and we'll be doing that, I'm sure, over the coming days, weeks, months, maybe even years. It's FIFA after all. But back to the football. Spain have moved on, beating Portugal 1-0. It was no classic, but in many ways, overshadowing the result here, Wills, is perhaps the departure of one Cristiano Ronaldo. We don't know for sure. He has said it's his last World Cup. We know that much. Whether it's his last international for Portugal, we're going to find out. It probably should be. But we should probably take a moment, whether you love him or hate him, to acknowledge just what he's brought to the scene. And yeah, I know they were probably better without him, and maybe he should have been on the bench in this one. But I'm going to leave my bias aside here and just acknowledge the footballer and say, see ya, Cristiano. Thanks for the memories.
It's been amazing. And people only hate players when they're really, really good. I don't think that people are disrespecting Cristiano Ronaldo, what he was able to accomplish. It was just his competitive nature. The fact that you had a polar opposite in many people's eyes, the yin to his yang, and Lionel Messi playing at the exact same time. And it seems like he's not the most easy individual to get along with sometimes. But with that being said, this man's 41 years old, was trying to do what he can for a team that looked at, they didn't have ideas throughout this tournament on how to use the talented players in this side to actually get the best out of them. Same went for Bruno Fernandes, who was probably worse than Cristiano Ronaldo at this tournament as well. No one will be saying that Bruno Fernandes is a bad player. I think Portugal, this just wasn't a great version of the team, and the head coach wasn't that great as well. But if this is the last that we've seen of Cristiano Ronaldo, he's going to be missed, incredibly missed. All you had to do is see the scenes inside Toronto Stadium in the city of Toronto in recent days. He is absolutely revered. He's an icon of the game and one of the best that we've ever seen. That is unquestionable. The number of Ballon d'Ors, the goals that he scored in the men's games, like, it's just been an incredible career for such an amazing player that has shown incredible longevity. It just kind of stinks that it happens this way. And I'm not talking about losing in a round of 16 match. Like, the game was a snooze fest, and we didn't really see Ronaldo shine or anyone shine really in that game. I would have loved to have seen Portugal and Ronaldo going out, like throwing a couple haymakers, like throwing some shots along the way. It was just passive and very un-Ronaldo-like in the end. I think that's kind of the saddest thing about today.
Yeah, I thought the game was risk averse. It was dull. It was playing not to lose, really, and it didn't bring the best out of these two teams. But what I thought made it a little bit sad was the fact that, yes, it's potentially the last time we see Cristiano Ronaldo in a Portugal kit, but that the narrative was always going to be about Ronaldo. And that's essentially what he did with this Portugal team and forced Roberto Martinez into managing, is that ego and himself. He was always going to be like this big behemoth kind of in the way, for better or for worse. And the fate of the team should not have rested at his feet, is the way that I saw it. So he goes out with a bit of a whimper, which is a bit of a shame because he is one of the greatest male footballers of all time. And, nobody can deny is his place in the sport, which is one of the best to ever do it. So I think that it was a little bit, not necessarily petulant, because I think he was behaved relatively during this tournament, but I think he maybe should have hung up his Portugal kit long ago, and then maybe the legacy would have been a little bit more everlasting.
Amy, regarding Spain, listen, they got the job done, didn't they, again? That's what they do. They don't always look great, but they find a way. Remember, this World Cup began with a 0-0 against Cape Verde, who turned out to be a really good team, by the way. Since then, maybe one really solid performance last round, but here we are talking about Spain, 2010 champions, European champions, into the quarterfinals against Belgium, which could be a beauty, by the way. Mm-hmm. What do you make of this Spain team? Some people are saying, are they a dark horse? Are they still a contender? Where do you put them right now? Still beside France as one of the major contenders for this tournament? Or have they lost some gleam?
We need to stop throwing dark horse around. I feel like we put that tag on anybody in this tournament. It's like, how do we describe this team? We're not really sure how. Dark horse. Like, I feel like Spain was immediately one of the contenders in this tournament. And then the way they started was maybe not as convincing. But yet they went through the motions a little bit. They came alive versus Austria. Almost perfect in the words of the coach. But the keeper is yet to concede, right? So you felt like the handbrake was off. It was a little bit more free flowing, but I think they're missing a little bit of that signature cutting edge, like we saw in the Euros a couple of years ago. And you saw Lamine Yamal today up against a formidable opponent, but hasn't really found his footing yet. And then nobody really on the left has done what Nico Williams was doing before that. So I'm not sure if they have quite enough. I think you have Rodri also is looking a little bit like himself before the knee injury, not quite there yet. So rounding into form the way that these teams that can sneak up on you often do in a tournament is they grow in strength, they grow in confidence. And even if it's not a flashy or sexy performance, they're still able to get it over the line.
Yeah, they're one of the favorites. I think the team that might beat Spain might win the World Cup. That's how good they are when you don't concede goals. I mean, that says something. Now, I think Amy's right. I think they really miss Nico Williams, the pace, the directness that he can bring to that left flank opposite of Lamine Yamal. Let's not confuse this team from like the vintage Spain sides that we've seen over the last decades with Villa and Torres and Xavi and Iniesta. These teams were something special. This group does it in a much different way. That they're very much in control of every game. De La Fuente is a really good international manager. He pulls on the strings. Look at Marino, bringing Marino on at a time where his opposite, Roberto Martinez, just conceded the midfield by taking out Vitinha and replacing with Bernardo Silva, who had no legs. So Marino's great finding those little pockets of space. He came in and scores the match winner. I think there was two opposites just in terms of who was in the dugout for the two teams today. One manager who I think really gets it, the Spanish manager, and the manager for Portugal who's a little bit clueless. So I think the Spain team's right up there. They're deep. They don't concede goals. They still have some star talent. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, they did this 16 years ago, right? They didn't impress. And then before you know it, they're hoisting the trophy above their heads. Listen, that's the World Cup story from today. Coming up, though, very shortly. In fact, July 26th, we have the CONCACAF U20 Championship here on One Soccer. By the way, Jesse Marsch wants a piece of the U20s. There's talk about him being involved in this team moving forward, which is very interesting. That's coming up for you starting on July the 26th. When we come back, Jonathan David, favourite son here, of course, of Canadian football. What's gone wrong for the Iceman? Has he gone even colder? JD, bring it home, man.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by bet365.
The game isn't over yet, but Gary just got paid with Bet365's early payout when his team went up 2 goals. Now, Gary can't stop celebrating. And honestly, we're not even sure he knows how.
Or forever hold this.
Download the Bet365 app and get paid out early when your team goes up 2 goals.
racing here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now,
who won the most Canadian Classics?
it's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing together.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
What did we learn? Now that we're at the finish line, we learned this was complicated. Part of it, of course, was just so wonderful. The scenes, the togetherness, the march in Toronto, the march is in Vancouver, the watch parties nationwide, gathering and uniting over the game for a once-in-a-lifetime event on home soil. We learned how momentous the occasions were, Laren's historic first goal and the explosion of joy in the stadium with it, scoring 6 against Qatar, Eustachio's winning strike. But more than that, we learned how people couldn't get enough. How you'd go into a coffee shop or be waiting for the bus, out for a walk, and everyone was talking soccer. We learned how people's tones shifted when they spoke of Kone, the way their voices rose with anticipation, hoping this would be the day they'd see Davies. We learned over this last month that the roller coaster ride the national team took us on will leave an imprint, no matter how big or small our fandom of the game may be. But remember, we learned this is complicated. We learned that as wonderful as a round of 16 run is, we need to be real on what it was. Morocco scored more goals in the second half on Saturday than Canada did in the 3 previous matches combined. We learned we aren't yet in the caliber of the elite. We learned we can't count on Jonathan David to be a reliable scorer. Now 8 World Cup starts on the resume, has scored in only one of those games. We learned the starting 11 decisions remained an adventure, that in the last 2 matches, neither made a ton of sense. We learned pulling the trigger on substitutions just took too long. And we learned 7 earned every minute of wearing the captain armband. We learned of the obsession to control narratives and the public message. Decoy wasn't it. That Canada was the better team on Saturday. You'd rather be in our spot than Morocco's? Those were just bizarre. And we learned we never quite learned what the deal was with Alphonso Davies. The will he or won't he? For how many minutes? The MRI came back clean, but wasn't right to play? Were the riches of club football too attractive to go? We learned we'll likely never know. What did we learn? We learned 2026 was very Canadian, that everyone played a part, both inside of the stadium and out of it. We learned how we can agree with Eustachio that this team gave it everything they had, and at the same time, we learned how that wasn't enough at this level. And we learned there is work to do to become a true football nation, from the discourse around team stakeholders to a pair of professional MLS franchises with their futures in doubt. We learned we need to find a way to parlay all that came with this summer into something real and sustainable. We learned in 2026 that yes, they may very well be true heroes in our country. And we learned we have so much more to do to take the necessary and vital steps ahead if we are truly to become a world power.
This is Our House, presented by Samsung. Arash with some strong words there. I spoke to Arash today. He's had quite the day through his social media posts and comments and talking to Amy Walsh on certain podcasts. Some good points being made there, though. Dubs, let's start with you. He says we cannot rely on Jonathan David in these games, in these tournaments. Do you agree?
Yeah, it sounded harsh when Arash said it, but I think ultimately, he's right. I think Jonathan David, his run of form for Canada recently, his run of form at club, all of it together is troubling and concerning. He does not look like himself. And I was never a striker. I was a ball-winning midfielder. I got my kind of aura and my confidence up on crunching tackles. When you're a striker, you're measured by how you fill the net and your first touch and putting yourself in the box, putting yourself in dangerous areas so that you can finish and you can deliver for your team in those big moments. And he just did not look himself when he missed a sitter out 13 yards from the net, just above that penalty spot versus Bosnia. He was a shadow of himself versus Morocco. The only time he looked like he had the rhythm, like he had everything kind of lining up for him to score goals when he got the hat trick versus a 9-player Qatar, right? And I don't think that's a true litmus test for somebody who's meant to be your talisman. So Jesse Marsch calls him his most intelligent footballer. We can have an argument about whether or not he's playing the right spot on this team, but he was a guy that Canada needed to rely upon. And in those first 45 minutes where I think Canada looked like themselves, they looked at their best, they needed somebody who was going to be ruthless, and usually that person is Jonathan David, and he did not show up at this World Cup.
Wills, strikers are weird creatures, right? They are. It's all confidence. They have dips. They could have an off season, then bounce back with a prolific season. How concerned are you about John David's recent form? It's been over a year now.
Well, it's a great point. Jonathan David is particularly streaky. He's been that way over the course of his club career. He's just provided over time like a certain level of consistency that we've grown accustomed to with Canada. Like 42 goals for Canada is great, but 8 goals for Juventus this season. And the dip in form for the national team coincided with the start of last season. I remember in the summer friendlies, even through the Gold Cup, I felt like at times Jonathan David was unplayable. He was in the form of his life. He looked fit. Every touch, every run that he made was with purpose. This was a great goal here. This was the last goal he scored from open play before the World Cup against Qatar. Other than that, it was 2 penalties against Iceland, and he was largely ineffective. I think it's a player where 2 things happen. One is club form trickled into his national team form. Like clearly it didn't work out. It was a miserable season at Juventus where he was in and out of the team. He failed to adjust. The team wasn't having a whole lot of success. Juventus changed their manager. There was a lot working against him. Oh yeah. And they also played one up top and there was 3 strikers that the team was trying to rotate through. And really none of them had a really great campaign in 25-26. Then for the national team, and Amy hinted at it, I still don't think that Jonathan David's playing the right position. We're seeing him back defending his own end on top of his own 18-yard box. I want him forward. I want him closer to the goal. I want him making runs in behind the back line. But that has really been the job of whoever his strike partner is. Jonathan David is being relied upon to be someone who is a presser, a defensive cog, a facilitator. He is none of these things. So I don't think the national team was playing to his strength either. So perhaps if one of these issues, whether it was just club or just country, you could kind of like push one aside and maybe he could push through and thrive through the situation. But both of them combined have put him in a real difficult place. That Jonathan David that we saw at that World Cup, whether it was touch on the ball, his confidence, his inability to read the game, that wasn't him. So something has to change going into the next campaign. So the next big game for Canada, he's in a much better position than he was over the course of the last month.
It's a fascinating topic, this, formations, tactics, where to use them. Jesse Marsch, talks about how smart a player he is. He's got the best IQ of any footballer he's ever played, ever coached before. Maybe in that regard, he overthinks it a little bit, and he puts John David in positions where maybe he's not best utilized, but he can do a job. When you talk about the next games coming up, next couple of windows, Wheels, do you see a formation change? I mean, we can see a player like Marcelo Flores, who's missed the World Cup, real shame there. But the kind of player that could play in that creative number 10 hole if he ever John David up top, getting on the end of those passes.
Is Jesse Marsch going anywhere? If the answer is no, then I don't think anything's going to change. I mean, I couldn't believe in the buildup to this World Cup, there wasn't even a little bit of experimentation on what that would look like. He was so resolute in his idea that Jonathan David was going to play that role and be his number 10 that we didn't even get to see what it would look like if someone else played the position. And I understand, I get it, that maybe Canada hasn't been blessed with options for players playing in that area. I still think that Ismail Kone could have pushed a little bit forward, and you could have at least tried him in that role. But when Flores came in that final window, preparation window against Iceland and Tunisia, and he didn't play that role, then that told us, I think, everything that we needed to know about what he thinks about Jonathan David and where he should play, or perhaps what he thinks about the rest of the group and where they should play. So in the immediate future, because of the status of Flores is going to be out for a long time and the lack of players being able to step up and play that role, I don't think anything's going to change, James. Do I think it should? Yes. But do I think it will? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think that, we think about Jesse Marsch and the style that he espouses, the philosophy of play that he's instilled here in Canada, and the players in a player pool, it's really playing to their strengths. But we think of it as a flat 4-4-2 and then like a 4-2-2-2 when they're defending and variations on that. I see it more as like a 4-2-3-1, but we never really see that fully come to life. And I think that's to do with the personnel. Like Wheels brought up the point about Kone. Like I think a lot of people, if you're going to push Jonathan David up, he's a type of guy, even though Marsch sees him more as a box to box, or at least in his mind, that's where he sees his strengths and like him playing the best football he can. He's in that role. But I don't know if we have the personnel. Like, what are we doing in our development system? Sharms, you alluded to Jesse Marsch looking forward and like trying to align the pathway, the youth development teams, and then shepherding those players along, playing a similar style. He's going to be with the U20s, looking forward to the Olympics. So you're developing players that can fit in there. So you might want to give them a little bit of flexibility, but you're also playing the best formation for the players in front of you. So he looks at Jonathan David and he thinks, my system needs to be built around this guy. And it means that he's moved away from the net. And I really do think it's to the detriment of the team. So if maybe over the next cycle, we're looking ahead to 2030, there are players who are going to come to the fore. There are likely more dual nationals that are going to be recruited by Jesse Marsch, because that has been a huge part of the 2 years that he's been with this team. So maybe, there's somebody on the horizon that can play that role. And then all of a sudden, Jonathan David is playing a true number 9, because if we did have somebody who was ruthless, who was that lethal finisher, like a Holland, like a Kane, I don't even think you throw Lionel Messi in there because he's just a unicorn, but somebody who's an out-and-out number 9, whether you're an old school forward or just somebody who can do the job to fill the net, we wouldn't be having this discussion. What they've done so far is enough. So you need the personnel to be able to plug those holes so you're not doing square peg, round holes.
Yeah, the elusive number 10 or 9, right? That Achilles heel of Canadian soccer, the unicorn of Canadian soccer, as it were. How about some more domestic football? This Wednesday, July the 8th, the Canadian Championship quarterfinals get back into action. And listen, if we're a football nation, we fill these stadiums, right? Let's continue this momentum from the World Cup, people, and show up for the Canadian Championship. All right, so what a night it was at the Azteca. Jude, Harry, and old Tom taking England to new heights? Maybe. We'll discuss that and more on the other side.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
In Canada, our future stars don't simply show up on the world stage. They are built from the ground up, right here in the heart of our communities.
Come on. Oh, lovely through ball there, Isaiah Johnson! Goal for Halifax!
From a childhood dream to the national team.
Jacob Schaffelberg! Yes! He's done it! Canada on top of the footballing world!
We are Canada, driven by Volkswagen.
And for Canada, BMO.
After 20 years of supporting the game, we're actually going to play in one. Let's go! So what do you need? Precision striker, rock solid left back?
We need a coin.
For the coin toss? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. Can I at least flip it? Heads or tails? I'll do that. We're on TV right now. Yeah.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by bet365.
How does England-Norway sound to you for a quarter-final? I'm not sure how many people predicted that before the tournament began, but Erling Haaland against a whole bunch of players that know him really, really well, which bodes kind of well if you're an England fan. Regardless, it's going to be a fascinating tilt. England, of course, coming off that famous win last night at the Azteca. Entering that match, Mexico had lost twice at the Azteca in competitive matches. Twice. Make it 3 now in 90 games after England found away dubs. Listen, Thomas Tuchel, he's beloved in England right now, but they've forgotten about the years 1914 to 1945. They didn't exist. They didn't happen. They're huge fans of this guy. He can't put a foot wrong. Now, maybe at certain points in that last match, there was some concern from the England fans, but overall, what he touches turns to gold. And listen, it may not have been England's best performance ever, but it was maybe the most impressive performance in the modern era.
It was, but like Thomas Tuchel did not put a foot wrong, I think. So, I mean, there was a lot of cries early on, like he watched that New England Patriots documentary, remember? And he came up with a quote and he was like, we're not just collecting the best players, we're building a team. And everyone was like, what is he talking about? But it really seems like it's come to fruition, right? Where he's truly brought about this brotherhood, which was something that was thrown around a lot with John Herdman and even now with Jesse Marsch, but it was embodied, it was everything like that in action at the Azteca, which is absolutely pulsating. So it's not been the easiest build. There have been some missteps. There's lots of talk about players who were left off the squad, like Foden and Palmer and Trent Alexander-Arnold. But what they were able to execute in game with the quality of a Jude Bellingham, which, speaking of creative number 10s, and doing that against the run of play, and Harry Kane, and then just how tremendous he's been as their talisman this World Cup, but then down to 10 men, and then trying to see the game out, and working against the ghosts of 86 and the hand of God and all of the fans in the stands who were, you know, crying against them and like did not want them to see the game out. And like Tuchel managing the game incredibly well with the substitutions that he made. And Dan Burn was just a stroke of genius, right? Like again, like the microcosm of that with the Raul Jimenez bicycle kick and Dan Burn blocking it with his face and going into the post-game presser and being too tall for the mic. But I think this is something, and to hear Declan Rice talk about it, you know, it was something that he's going to remember as a player, like in an England kit. And I think for a lot of England fans, and the two of you more so than me, who's married to a Scot, you know, where they had all their statues decked out in Mexican kit, like this is something that you will cling to for a very long time. So if England needed a reference point, they needed something to kind of pushed them forward in this competition, it was those 90 minutes plus, what was it, 11 or 12 minutes of stoppage time at the end that felt like an absolute eternity. Like, it was everything that England wanted to be in years past and couldn't quite do. It was all of that and more on that night.
First of all, Dubs, it's always Big Dan Burns. You can't just say Dan Burns.
Oh, sorry.
Big Dan Burns.
Big Dan.
It's a legal thing, you know. What can I say? Wales, I always get a bit confused with you and your conflict between Wales and England and who you should really support here. But I know you have some respect for the English if you dig deep enough. How would you put this game into context and that result into context, given what Amy just said there? That's the kind of match they usually lose.
I have my British citizenship, so
okay.
I'm a little bit of
Scots in there
everything.
too.
Okay, I'm an '80s baby, so I've been watching England and suffering for a long time, and I've watched a lot of England teams that have been overrated before. Have a lot of star players, a lot of hype about them, but when it comes to like showing guts and structure and being able to rise to the moment, they've all failed, and they've all failed miserably. Like, it hasn't even been good to watch. This team isn't that. I actually think that this group is just about criminally underrated. Like, Harry Kane, for my money, is just about the best player on the planet right now. Just look at the stats. Look at what he's put up for club and country over the last calendar year. No one else touches it. Like, he has been incredible. Jude Bellingham is like, he's living up to his lofty billing. This guy, like, as a 20-year-old, is getting sold for like, what, 120 million? And last night he was worth every penny of it. This just wasn't anywhere that we went. This was the Azteca. I think we're fortunate in this region to know everything about the Azteca and why it's such a difficult place to go. You had English journalists going on long runs to test their lungs. There was talk about Viagra, changing of kickoff time, like the weather, everything got thrown their way, but they were stoic and they were committed. And I just love the performance. And this guy's the true leader from when he stepped on the field last night, even conceding the penalty, the work rate he put in, all the way to his post-match press conference where he didn't have a voice. A man, myth, a legend, Harry Kane. And I'll say this. Well, I won't say that. I'm not going to say that England are going to win the World Cup, but
you're saying something.
England are going to win the World Cup. They're going to win the World Cup this year.
Listen, I mean, we'll assess that on July the 20th. You mentioned the press conference. We have to play the press conference.
They're a team. Can I just point out, like, Declan Rice picked up a card early in that game, and he was unbelievable throughout. Declan Rice is underrated as well. Just what a player he is. Sorry, Sharps, take it away.
That's all right. Listen, they're all great players. I love it. I love it. Here's Harry Kane, though, post-match. You got to hear this.
What's happened over there by the England goal? Because there looks to be some concern.
Yeah, Jordan, my voice is gone. Henry just fell over there. I think he's okay. Just something to do with his arm.
Was that was that Bert or Ernie? I was getting mixed up.
That's Bert.
That's Bert. Isn't Bert more like this?
Hey, Bert.
Yeah, he's more like Harry Kane before the voice goes away. That was classic, though. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Harry Kane, I don't know, Dubs. I mean, listen, we can overrate players. That's what we do in the media, of course. I think he might be England's greatest player ever. Now, listen, I missed out on the 66 team. Bobby Charlton, Bobby Moore, Jimmy Greaves wasn't on that team, but, a wonderful, wonderful footballer from that era. Okay. Recency bias, though, in my living memory, which goes back quite a way, even longer than Wales there, he's the best England player I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, growing up, I think my earliest soccer memories were probably watching some iteration of England, but I think absolutely for somebody around my age, late 40s, I'm almost 50. Let's just put it out there. I think Harry Kane's the guy because where would England be without Harry Kane? Like, they time and time again, they fall behind. Not necessarily at the Azteca because they were leading 2-0 against the run of play, but they usually concede the opening goal. They're usually working and they're chasing the game. And time again, they're looking for a hero. And who shows up every time? It's Harry Kane. And so what he did against the Congo, to me, like, really encapsulates what he does. Where it's a clever header first. It's the incredible movement in the box, just really sharp and short to get to that ball. Not really particularly impressive in the header, but he still is able to get off the mark. But then it's the second goal and that deft little pass from Gordon, who deserves a shout out. Again, I also Tuchel with how we started that match, right? With his wingers, I think that was the right call, especially Gordon, the shift that he put in. But against the Congo, that little slip pass to him, and he's fighting off 3 defenders, and he's able to thrash the ball into the net, much the way he finished the penalty. So enough with this stutter step. Take a lesson from Harry Kane and the way that he can score goals. So it's just been astonishing the way that he's been able to fill the net, the type of stats that he's able to build up. But when you think about a striker, like maybe you're not saying England's greatest ever, to your point, Charms, because that would be Bobby Charlton and maybe nobody else. But I think you're putting him above the likes of Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker. Like that's a name that I remember from my childhood, going back to my earlier point, as somebody who was untouchable. And now Kane is the guy who's providing the belief time and time again with the way that he shows up in an England kit and the way that they do it. And yes, it's off the back of Bellingham gets the brace and then Kane who nets the winner with the penalty. But that will be able to be something that they can rely upon as they look to the final. And if they're bringing it all home, it's going to be off the back of their big number 9 in Harry Kane.
Wills, let me throw one more name there. Wayne Rooney, who many people consider England's best. I mean, he was more than a 9 as well. He was more of a 10, in fact. Where would you rate Kane in the Rooney scale?
I also think Kane is the best, but I'm not sure if that will be the widespread sentiment, because you guys know this, like how much club football plays into the mentality or what people think about various players. And while Rooney played for United or Gerrard played for Liverpool and Lampard with Chelsea, we all know the story. Harry Kane played for Spurs, like Spursy, like don't win a thing, Tottenham Hotspur. And now he plays for Bayern Munich. And I think that the British mentality is that, well, the German league just nowhere near as good as the Premier League, so he can go out and score 50 goals, but he's playing for Bayern Munich. Having Bayern Munich on this network and seeing them week in, week out, they're special. The team is special. This is why they contend each and every season in the Champions League and are among the best. So I think like his club career plays against him, but in terms of what he's done for the national team, and it's a big if they go out and do something special at this World Cup, unquestionable. I don't even know if there'll even be a debate about it. That's how Harry Kane would entrench himself in the hearts and minds of English football and their fans.
Well, we'll mention a couple of Spurs players, Glenn Hoddle, Paul Gascoigne as well in that conversation. We could talk about that, by the way, for a long time, but we're out of time. When we come back, we'll look ahead to Tuesday's matches at the World Cup. Argentina, Egypt, Messi against Mo, Xhaka against Diaz, Switzerland, Colombia. That and much more. It's going to be a great Tuesday. We'll break them down for you on the other side.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now,
who won the most Canadian Classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
Canada are really pressing here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
A player Mike bet on just missed an open net tap-in and got subbed off.
I could have scored that in jeans.
Mike doesn't know it yet, but thanks to Bet365's sub-on play-on,
The net was wide open.
his prop bet rolls over to the fresh leg sub coming on. So if the sub scores, Mike still wins.
False alarm, people. My bet's still good.
If your player gets subbed, your bet plays on.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
Tuesday, 2 more matches for you in the round of 16. Argentina against Egypt and Switzerland against Colombia. Okay, Amy, let's start with you. Who's your Tellus player to watch for Tuesday?
Oh, for me, I'm going to the Vancouver match because this is Canada's last match as part of this kind of triple co-host World Cup with 48 teams. So it's Switzerland versus Colombia, and I'm going to Manzambi. So he's got 3 goals early in a tournament, and by getting another assist, he became the youngest player to reach 5 goal involvements at a World Cup since they began those records. And we saw the fits that he gave to Canada's backline in the group stage. He's a difference maker when he's combining with Mbolo. You got Vargas on the wing. Like, this is a powerful, he's pacey. He's a very right-footed player, but he goes down the line. We saw what he did in the knockout round, and whispers of Newcastle trying to tie this 20-year-old up in a deal. And the coach singing his praises, saying you can play him anywhere on the pitch. So I think future is really bright for this kid, and I see him making a big impact in Vancouver versus Colombia.
He is dynamic. Okay, Wills, who's your Tellus player to watch for tomorrow?
Yeah, you mentioned the word unicorn earlier. That's exactly what Manzambi is. This guy's a straight baller. Same game. I can't wait for it. It's a great way to end up the games in Vancouver and in this country. I think Colombia are a team to reckon with it here in this tournament. Like, they're in a collision course with Argentina, which would be a brilliant game to watch, like Copa America style. Luis Diaz is their best player. Okay, he has 16 shots in this tournament already. In a team that's all action, like, he's the energizer buddy of the group. And with a couple injuries up top, he's going to be relied upon even more. This Colombia team completely outplayed Portugal in the group stage. They comfortably went through the round of 32 matchup as well, but it's going to be a little bit of clash of styles. I think Diaz could have a field day because maybe the perceived weakness for the Swiss are in their fullback areas. Especially right back. Dennis Zakaria played there against Algeria in the round of 32 for Switzerland. Widmer can play there. Yaquez played there for Canada. I just think that Diaz will be favored in any one of those matchups. That could potentially be the best way forward for Colombia in this game.
And with respect, Switzerland, it's kind of time to go now. You know, I want to see Colombia move on there. They're fun to watch. I'm saying all the numerous Swiss viewers right now, and I apologize. Nothing against Switzerland, but you've made your noise, you've made your place, and we respect you for it. Amy, Argentina are minus 264 favorites on Bet365 over Egypt. Salah and Messi, 2 old fellas who are going to steal the show. What do you make in this one? Is it going to be the world champs once again cruising through?
I think it might be as much as my red heart supporting Liverpool and Mo Salah, even though he's departing the club. I want the best for him and for Egypt and this historic World Cup for them. But I think it's where it stops for Egypt right now, because I think Argentina got the scare versus Cape Verde, and I think they will not let that happen again. So they'll look to be dominant from the start and try to kill the game early.
Yeah, it's probably fair enough. I still can never forget the Egypt match, though, at Vancouver. And when they progressed to the next round, that was one of the greatest moments I've experienced live. It was amazing. You mentioned the Switzerland-Colombia game and Vancouver Wales. It is the farewell, of course, as you mentioned, but give some Vancouver some love here before we sign off, do you think?
Yeah, look, Vancouver's been a great host city. Colombia's been traveling all over the place. Switzerland's got to stay in Vancouver for 3 straight games. That is their advantage heading into this one, because they haven't had to travel. Well, Colombia has. I just think Colombia might be a little bit too much in this one. They are a legitimate contender at this World Cup. They fit the bill as dark horse, Amy Walsh, Colombia.
Oh, another dark horse. There you have it. Another match day is behind us of this remarkable, brilliant World Cup. We're back tomorrow. Until then, cheers for watching.